Hey guys, it's Tombox. Thanks for tuning into MST.TV's full set analysis of Rising Rampage. And this time in part 1, we are going to be doing the full set analysis, going over every single major archetype, all the major supports, and all the loose supports that are coming out in this set. This is a flip around from our usual segment where part 1 is all the secret and all the hype, mainly because of the order of the information being released. The database updated and gave us full spoilers right away, so I kind of cut out all the images and put it into bite-sized chunks for you guys. So I've been under this light and heat for some time now, so my life point is pretty low. So every single like you guys throw in there increases my life points by 1, and I appreciate all of you guys for doing so. So for this full set analysis, we're going to break down, of course, all the major archetypes. There's a lot of new stuff going in, and looking into this set is mainly there to introduce and set you guys up for Chaos Impact. Chaos Impact looks like a magnificent set compared to this one, but without this set, you won't be able to play the stuff in Chaos Impact. It's just a bit of a trade-off, and we'll go over everything very soon. If you guys want to help support this channel, check out the Patreon link down in the description below to keep these segments coming. Because without your support in Patreon, I probably would never make another one of these because it is grueling, especially in the summer. It is super hot, and I'm just like sweating like crazy. If you guys are wondering why am I wearing this shirt, it's like probably ruining the green screen. It's because it's really hot in here. Anyways, without further ado, let's just jump into this segment. Okay, the first archetype making its debut would be the Water Cybers archetype of Marincess. They are Cybers and they are water, which means Cyanide mining is spiking up in price thanks to it, and it also synergizes with Cyanide mining because you're allowed to retrieve a lot of cards out of the graveyard. In terms of strategy, it is a link-based strategy very similar to Salamangreats. It's a combo control deck. You don't have some of the biggest aggression just yet, not until you get stuff from Chaos Impact, but for now you can still establish pretty decent control. You have some of the best traps in the game, or at least one of the best traps in the game for sure. And since you're playing a link-based strategy, you are a recycling-based strategy where you're fetching stuff out of the graveyard and resummoning it onto zones that your link monster points to, mainly Marincess monsters, and you're able to refetch a lot of these things. So it's kind of like a recycling-based strategy to link up into higher rating. Now, unlike Salamangreats, you're not relinking into stuff. That's Salamangreats playstyle. This playstyle is more likely focused on getting higher link ratings, so they unlock additional abilities from your cards. Now, I'm going to start off with the link monsters as I go into this particular archetype. There's 7 cards being introduced to us. So starting off with Blue Slug, this is an ultra rare, unfortunately, so this is going to be a very expensive archetype, and especially when you want to play it in Chaos Impact. Though this one requires 1 level 4 or lower Marincess monster. You can link summon this card once per turn. Now if this card is link summoned, you can target a Marincess monster in your graveyard and put it back in your hand, but you cannot special summon monsters except for water monster for the rest of the turn. Who cares? You're going to be playing a water-based entire deck, so what does that mean? It means you can play frogs with it. You can synergize it with frogs, and not all of these link monsters require a Marincess monster to actually use as a material. So now that you can retrieve a monster, usually you're going to retrieve a Seahorse, but we'll get into Seahorse after we go through here. Then we have Marincess Coral Anemone. She is a secret rare and probably going to be one of the more pricey ones for sure, and it requires 2 water monsters to make, which means she's really easy to get into. And she doesn't have any sort of summoning restriction according to what I can read right now. Now you can target 1 water monster with 1500 attack or less in your graveyard, special summon it to your zone this card points to. Now it has a left arrow and a down arrow, so you're basically free from opening with it or just comboing into her, so she can synergize pretty decently. And okay, looking at this, if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target a Marincess card in your graveyard except for Marincess Coral Anemone and add it to your hand. So the moment you link her off, you fetch back some of that material, which is pretty awesome, which is a major setup factor for a lot of play. So that's why she's really important, because, well, she's a free special summon and zeroes out when she's sent to the graveyard, or perhaps even acts as a +1 to some degree. So then we have Marincess Marbled Rock. This is your current boss monsters. You get 3 different link monsters that combo with each other when you get into Chaos Impact. So that being said, with Marincess Marbled Rock, this one is your battle prevention one, and you can target 1 Marincess card in your graveyard except for Marbled Rock and add it to your hand. And this is a once per turn effect, because you can only use this effect of Marbled Rock once per turn. So you get to retrieve your resources and constantly recycle. You get to some degree, free salvaging constantly. This is a salvage-based archetype, you can say that. And when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can send one Marincess monster from your hand to the graveyard. I guess this is any monster that battles. It didn't say this card. So then monsters cannot be destroyed by that battle. I'm guessing both you and your opponent's monster. And also you take no battle damage from that battle, which is pretty good. You can activate this card multiple times, and then you can just basically retrieve it. So as long as you have material, you can keep doing this. It's pretty neat effect. If you can actually get multiple copies of this card out onto the field, then you'll just constantly just cycle stuff, I guess. Well, probably not, because you can only add one per turn. Then we go into the main monsters here. So Seahorse is an ultra rare, and this is the card that you need so much of, because you can special summon this card from your hand to a monster's zone pointer, one of the arrows, that is a Marincess. And because of that, she is one of your opening plays, because you go into her into the blue slug. And once you get into the blue slug, you get to add her back. So if you normal summon out Seahorse, you go into blue slug, and then blue slug adds it back. Now you can special summon it and now go into your 2. So you can just keep on just pushing up your links through just one monster, which is why both of those are ultra rares, which makes sense. The next card we have is Sea Star. Not as effective, it's just an attack modifier, and you can use her twice per turn. I don't know why you put that restriction on. There's no point putting on that restriction. Kalute's not once per turn, but I'm guessing because the rest of the archetype is so strong, limitations, you know, are warranted. So yeah, there's tons of things going for this deck. And also there's more effects on Seahorse, which is you can banish this card, you summon out more water monster. People are synergizing this with Frog, so you just get the additional negation as well. And remember when I said that as long as you link up, you unlock additional effects? These are coming from your traps. If you have a link 3 or higher Marincess, you get to activate your traps from your hand, which keeps them safe from pesky Twin Twisters. And sure, we have Current, and we also have Wave. Wave is the much more powerful card. Just breeze through Current. Current is a burn-based trap. If you use a link monster, destroy stuff by battle, you burn your opponent based off of your link rating times 400. If you have a link 2 or higher and you destroy something by battle and that monster is also a link monster, then they burn on top of that additional 500 times their link rating. So that's that. But Marincess Wave, on the other hand, this is like, I guess it's an effect veiler. I guess you target one face-up monster opponent control. It's like impermanence, except this impermanence, you are able to protect all your monsters from card effects. All your currently face-up monsters are unaffected by your opponent's card effects as long as you controlled a link 2 or higher Marincess monster when you activated this. So yeah, tons of fun, I guess. And if you control a link 3 or higher Marincess, means that your opponent will have to catch this by surprise, because this will be in your hand and they can't really answer to it unless they choose to Mind Crush. And there's that. But Marbled Rock, being able to prevent your opponent from dealing damage through battle, and then to empty out your Marbled Rock with a Marincess Wave, it just means they don't get easy access into your life points at all, which is why this is a control-based deck. So that's why 3 of the ultra rares are here. One of the more expensive archetype for sure. Now let's move on to Tenyi. So these monsters, they are a worm-based archetype with multiple attributes. They have a playstyle of a combination of using non-effect monster with effect monster. Again, this is a control-based deck. It doesn't exactly have a strong aggression-based play just yet, or it does technically have if you force it, but based off of what you can see initially, it does seem more like a control-based archetype, and you're missing a lot of cards that are coming out in Chaos Impact. Your Light Tenyi is the one that lets you combo even faster, but the combos right now is a mix of non-effect monster with effect monster to gain the benefits of that. So I'll just leave it at that. In terms of all the monsters, they all carry the effect where you can special summon them from your hand as long as you don't control an effect monster. But these guys are effect monsters, so you'll have to link it off to get the additional summon. So that being said, their effects, they have twofold. One, of course, is the special summon one. The other one is the one where you can banish from your hand or graveyard depending on the trigger that is met. And that one requires a face-up non-effect monster to to activate. So the first one here, if you banish this card from your hand or grave, you can target one of your banished monsters, banished worm monsters, and then except this card, you can add it to your hand. So that's pretty simple. This is allowing you to recycle some of the older effects that you already have. Since it's adding it to your hand, if you don't have an effect monster at the time, you get to get a free special summon. So overall, this is a really good card, and it's also your tuner for the next set. Then we have Vishuddha. Vishuddha lets you bounce a card if you banish it from your hand or graveyard. So that is a pretty decent card. Unfortunately, it's not a quick effect, so limited access. In other words, when it's your opponent's turn, you almost feel a little naked because you can't really do too much and you're just taking hits for the most part. But you do have some level of interaction, but they always have to interact with your non-effect monster, which is sadly very difficult to manage. And then we have Pura. Pura lets you negate anything that targets your non-effect monsters. And if they target it, you get to banish this card from your hand or graveyard, negate the activation, and destroy that card. I guess it's decent enough, I suppose. Again, like the fire, wind, and water one, you don't really want to invest too many copies of, but they all look so cool in terms of the artwork anyway. Now looking at Nahada lets you reduce the attack of one of your opponent's monster. If they're attacking one of your non-effect monsters, you get to banish this card from your hand or grave to reduce their attack by 1500. And this is an attack declaration effect, not a damage step effect. So yeah, watch your timing, that's all I'm saying. And then Sathana just lets you revive something that's been destroyed by battle or card effect by your opponent, as long as a non-effect monster. So yeah, in other words, these cards are a little bit lackluster if you take them at face value, but you also have link monsters too. You have the warrior monk of the Tenyi, or the monk of the Tenyi, and this one is basically take a non-link Tenyi monster and make this. It only has 1000 attack, it points downwards, and it opens up all your other effects where you can get additional special summons. You can use it for link plays. A lot of people are considering using Mare right now mixed in with the deck. An interesting choice. I believe some people are just syncing into Yazi, or not just Yazi, but they're going into that card, what's it called? Yazi's bigger brother, Boxia. Yeah, they're going to Boxia and just blowing up stuff, just making plays here and there. And since it's a worm-based archetype, it's absolutely cool. So then we also have the Flawless Perfection of the Tenyi. This is their field spell, very powerful stuff. I don't know how I feel about it right now because I've opened multiple copies of this and it really doesn't do anything. It only protects your monster. It has a really cool artwork. I love the artwork, but at the same time, the effect is just kind of It protects all your non-effect monster by your opponent's card, like by all monster effects. But once per turn, when your opponent special summons an effect monster while you control non-effect monster, you get to draw 2 cards. That part is pretty awesome. In fact, since that is not a hard once per turn effect, if you metaverse another copy of it onto the field, you can technically draw additional 2 cards from that. So that is something to think about, I guess. And then we have the Vessel of the Dragon Cycle. This is like a Foolish Burial or a Dragon Shrine for a Worm type monster. But if you control a non-effect monster on the field, you get to add a Tenyi monster from your deck to your hand. So it's both a Foolish and a rolled as a +1. If you count the card in the graveyard as a plus, because you get to get the additional effect. I guess if you had the light one, then yeah, sure, I would count it. But since you don't have the light one, I guess it doesn't count just yet. And you also have a counter trap, which is the Fist of the Unrivaled Tenyi. They have such epic names, like a Chinese drama. But anyways, okay, and this one is just a counter trap. It does not destroy the card that it negates. Spell traps monster effects. If you control a face-up non-effect monster, you get to negate the activation. It's pretty simple. If this card is set and your opponent destroys it by a card effect, you get to special summon out 1 non-effect monster from your extra deck. So you can go into your big boy of Berserker of the Tenyi, or you can go into Warrior Monk of the Tenyi, or just Monk of the Tenyi. You also have an Shaman of the Tenyi. She is quite different. She's like a peacock, kind of sporting all the dragons around her. The artwork's pretty crazy. This card lets you, I guess, protect your dudes to some level. When your opponent declares an attack on your non-effect Tenyi monsters or non-effect monsters, you get to destroy 1 card your opponent controls. So that's a targeted effect. So give and take what you may think. And also you can discard a card and target a 10 Yi monster in your graveyard, special summon it. So you get to revive some of these dudes as well. It requires 2 worm monsters to make, so it's not that specific, but it's pretty neat, I guess. You can revive, I think you can revive Mare? Is that a thing? I don't know. You guys let me know down in the comment section below how you want to play it. I know people are playing Boxia and all that stuff, but well, you guys let me know, like the 4 get rid of 4 card Boxia play with the current version of Tenyi. Nice. Let's move on to the next one, which is a TCG exclusive introduction. The Dreamier archetype is the TCG exclusive one, and it has 7 cards with 1 trap, and every other card is a pair of each of them. So you have Achilles, which is Achilles, the Dreamier Sprite. You also have the dark variant of Achilles, the Dreamier Mara, and then you also have Morpheus, the Dreamier White Knight, the keyboard warrior there to protect all the princesses on the internet. And then you also have Morpheus, the Dreamier Black Knight, there to spread a lot of destruction. And then you also have the Dreamier of Joy and the Dreamier of Terror. And you also have the Dreamier Fantasy, which is the RPG that this game is based off of. No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea what I'm talking about there. But there is a trap that lets you banish any card on the field, non-targeting. As long as you have a Dreamier of Joy and a Dreamier of Terror, that can be shuffled back from the banish pile. And how did they get banished? We'll get to that very soon. We'll kick things off with Achilles, the Dreamier Sprite. So, all of these monsters, if you special summon them through another Dreamier, like kind of going through the mirror onto the other side, they trigger an effect. And they all have a quick effect. If there's a mirror present and of the opposite attribute, they can always jump into the mirror and go on to the other side, which makes them pretty dodgy for most effects. If you have a target based effect, you can expect people to kind of dodge and switch to the other side. So that is going to be a limitation. That means your effect veilers are not going to be very effective for the most part, unless of course they don't have the correct mirror available. But regardless, looking into the first one, Achilles, the Dreamier Sprite, if you special summon, you get to add a Dreamier card from your deck to your hand, which is, I guess, one of your best opening plays to set things up. But when you tag her out into Dreamier Mara, you get to special summon a Dreamier monster from your hand. So if you just search the monster, now you get to bring the monster out, which is, honestly, that's not that bad. And the card that you're probably going to add is going to be Morpheus, the Dreamier White Knight. The White Knight is a defensive monster. Oh, fun fact, when you go from the attack to the defense, or you go from light to the dark, the attack and defense stat also swap. So starting with the White Knight, you have 1000 attack and then 2800 defense. If you summon this to a Dreamier, this card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects this turn. In other words, it creates a solid wall of protection, because if you have the Dreamier of Joy, I believe you can only attack the highest level monster available, which would be Achilles, and your opponent can't even target your lower monsters for effects. So it gives you that White Knight feeling of protection for sure, but you can also switch them out into the Black Knight. And then if you summon the Black Knight, you get to destroy 1 card on the field. Of course, you can tag them back and forth, which makes it pretty fun. I'm guessing this whole deck is about field spell management so that you can maximize on all your quick effects. You can tag out whenever, you can just tribute the card, and then you can special summon it during the main or battle phase. And of course, each of these effects are hard once per turn, so there's a bit of a limitation. Mirror of Joy gives you the protection from, well, anything as long as they are targeting your highest level monster. Dreamier of Terror is a burn based card where if your opponent is special summoning, they take 300 damage, but these effects only apply if you have a Dreamier of the matching attribute. And then there's Dreamier Fantasy. How does it work? Well, if you control a Dreamier monster, you can target each of your banished Dreamier of Joy and Terror and shuffle them back into the deck. Now, how did they get banished? During the end phase, you can banish this card and activate a Dreamier of the opposite color. So there's that. And of course, Dreamier Fantasy lets you protect your Dreamier field spells. You can banish it and substitute the destruction. So that is the rundown for the Dreamiers. What do you guys think about this archetype? I think it's alright, it's not bad. I would like to see what else you can do. I think it's gonna be a very fun thing to do. Like anyone that likes a high skill ceiling deck, that likes to manage like all sorts of effects and opening different plays, this might be for you. And time to look at the birds. The birds, spread your wings, guys, because we've got some Simorgh. Now, Simorgh plays very differently from all the other archetypes because this is a tribute summon based deck that plays almost like the old school version of Monarchs, where you generate fodder and you perform tribute summons. this is exactly what that is, actually. Starting off with Simorgh, rather than being just an archetype with a boss monster that's a wing beast, you get a full-on archetype with a bunch of weenie monsters to support you to get you to your plays. So you have a Simorgh Bird of Beginnings. This acts as an additional normal summon when you normal summon this card out. So all of these have a normal summon trigger as well as a grave summon ability. The grave summon ability, if your opponent does not control any spell or trap cards in their spell or trap zone, you get to special summon these guys out for free out of your graveyard, but they do get banished and you're locked into summoning out Wing Beast for the rest of the turn. So it does have a limitation, guys. But since you're a tribute summon based deck, you don't really rely on the extract. That means you can run Extravagance in your deck as well. Now looking into this particular deck, we also have Bird of Beginnings and the additional normal summon for the normal summon trigger. They have Bird of Beginnings. This one lets you add a Simorgh card, which means anything in the deck for the most part, which is pretty awesome. This is your key opener for most cases, but you probably want to use a spell card to get into it. It's a little bit better, to be honest. And the other way, it doesn't burn your normal summon. And since you can throw these cards into the graveyard for free, it just usually works out. Then you have Bird of Calamity. Bird of Calamity is the one that sends a card to the graveyard. Then you have Bird of Protection, which lets you bounce back one of your opponent's spells and traps. This is useful, especially when someone sets like 1 second's light just to block out your graveyard effects. You get to just bounce them all away. And then for your tribute summons, as I talked about this, you need to do tribute summons for your boss monster, so you have Simorgh Lord of the Storm. This is a super rare. I think this whole entire archetype is still pretty darn cheap. Your opponent cannot target this tribute summon monster with spells and traps. And note that this is a level 8, and I know you guys are already thinking like, oh, is this card worth it? Well, this whole deck has the ability to manipulate levels and to manipulate the amount of tributes needed, and since it's a tribute summon based deck, remember you can also use Stormforth to get rid of your opponent's monsters. Now, what's its full effect? Well, if it's in the graveyard and one of your wing beasts is destroyed by battle, you can add this card back to your hand, so you'll always have a big booty beater. And then on the other hand, you also have Darkness Simorgh. This one kind of reminds me of Darkest Diablos, because Darkest Diablos, there was already a Dark Diablo, so Darkness Simorgh is like the darker version of Dark Simorgh. I'm guessing like maybe there'll be a Darkest Armed Dragon where I get to pop every single card my opponent controls for free. Sign me up for one of those. But regardless, it has a very similar summoning condition where you can summon it from your grave or from your hand as long as you tribute summon a dark or wind monster. So that tribute summon is key. It's not just Darkest Diablos' effect where you just tribute a dark for whatever. This one requires a tribute summon, so not to be mistaken for each other. And when a spell or trap card is activated, or spell effect or trap card effect is activated, you can tribute a wing beast monster and negate that activation. So very solid card, very big beat stick, 29 beat stick overall. And this one is also 29. And whenever a spell or trap effect is activated or spell or trap card is activated, you can tribute one wing beast monster, target one card your opponent controls, and shuffle that back into the deck. So shuffling, non-destruction removal is always welcome. And of course, these birds can act as the ammo to get that done, because of course these birds can all special summon themselves back out from the graveyard, although they do get banished, but it's okay. And in terms of synergy and quick search setup, we have Simorgh Onslaught. Discard a wing beast, add 2 Simorgh monster with different attributes from your deck to your hand. You can banish this card from your graveyard, reveal a wing beast monster in your hand, and if you do, reduce the levels of monsters in your hand with that name by 1 for the rest of the turn. Speaking of which, Apex Avian is a wing beast, and Apex Avian going from a 7 to a 6 reduces its tribute requirement by 1. And that's pretty good, because if you actually pair it with the Elbors of the Land of Simorgh, well, you can perform a normal summon with 1 less tribute, which means if you reveal a level 5 or higher wing beast monster from your hand, you can normal summon out wing beast monsters from your hand for 1 less tribute. This is a you can, so I'm guessing you don't have to, but it's nice to do because sometimes you want to get that tribute summon to get out your Darkness Simorgh. But that just means that Lord of the Storm only requires 1 tribute, and you can use Stormforth on your opponent's card, and you get rid of their stuff, put out a big beat stick, and control their spells and traps, which is very fun. If you play against Sky Striker, you can also use a Dark Simorgh as an option, because this one can add Dark Simorgh. Set that up so they can't set any back row. They have to attempt to pop your stuff. But if you have Dark Simorgh and you have a Darkness Simorgh preventing them from playing any further, it's it's just kind of neat. Or you can even use anti-spell fragments to just completely shut them down. That is an option. You also have Simorgh Repulsion. Simorgh Repulsion is just a one-sided giant trinity that only hits the spell and trap zone on your opponent's side, and you can also use this card to banish it to reduce levels. And you have Simorgh Stormforce, or rather this is called Simorgh Sky Battle. It makes it so that your opponent has to hit the highest level Simorgh or highest attack Simorgh monster for effects or attacks. But if you send 2 Simorgh monsters whose level are 7 and higher, you get to return every single card on the field back to the hand, and if you do, you take 500 damage and you inflict your opponent 500 damage as well. So that's pretty decent. I guess it's kind of a crappy card. It just gives you a bit of targeting protection, but not really. But overall, this is going to be a very fun archetype to play, very different from the rest of them, and that is Simorgh. So we're reducing down in size in terms of the support. We get a Fortune Lady. Well, the Fortune Lady are getting 5 cards added into the archetype. We got a Synchro now, Fortune Lady Every. This is a secret rare. As a secret rare, generic level 7. Oh, it's not really complete generic. It's a spellcaster 7. It has a pretty decent effect. Situational, but still pretty decent if you ask me, with a self-reviving capacity. So you need 1 tuner and 1 or more non-tuner spellcaster monsters. Okay, fair enough. This card's attack and defense is equal to 400 times its level, like other fortune, basically any other Fortune Lady. So 7 times 4, that's 28 by base, and once per turn it gains 1 level. Whenever it gains a level, it banishes a face-up monster your opponent controls. That's an optional effect, so you don't have to trigger your opponent's Thunder Dragon effects. During your opponent's end phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can banish another spellcaster monster in your graveyard, special summon out this card, and then during your standby phase, you're gonna be able to get a banish. Overall, it's pretty good. This card is what's her name? Solitaire Magician, all grown up now. It took her about a good 20 years to grow up, but hey, she's here now as a synchro. And of course, with the first tuner introduced, we have Fortune Lady Pass. I believe this is like Carly's version into a card. Like a lot of the Yu-Gi-Oh characters, they get developed into a card, like Numeral Hunter, Kaiba Man, Crystal Vanguard, and all the Crystal cards. They're based off of characters that kind of play with the cards. Now, if this card, okay, looking at this card, it is basically just a pretty simple tune. You can target 1 Fortune Lady you control, banish any number of spellcasters from your hand, field, or graveyard except that monster, increase or reduce that monster level by the number of monsters banished until the end of the turn. So you get that bit of a level manipulator. But the banishing is something that I was looking into. Reading all the other cards, this card, Fortune Lady Calling, this is, if you control a Fortune Lady, you can special summon a Fortune Lady from your deck with a different name. This works very well with Fortune Lady Water, because that basically lets you draw 2 cards, and that's why this is pretty good. And then there's also Fortune Vision. This is like a Rhoda for the deck, the ability to search out a Fortune Lady card from a card from the deck to your hand. But there's also more. If things are banished, you get additional effects. You guys can go into looking at this. I believe if things get banished, most of your monsters cannot be destroyed by card effects, even if this card leaves the field. So it's got a pretty decent effect, especially if you pair this with Future Visions, which is the field spell which causes things to get banished. I think this overall is going to be a pretty fun archetype to kind of look into. But I think as a standalone card, Fortune Lady Every is probably one of the better ones. And then there's Fortune Lady Rewind, time to travel back into the past. No, this is basically a soul charge. Target any number of your banished Fortune Lady monsters with different names, special summon them, and then shuffle them back into the deck. However, there's no other restriction, so you can definitely link them all off into making very big Boral Dragon or Boral Sword Dragon to kill your opponent. So that makes up for Fortune Ladies. Archetype number 7, Yosenju. We got Yosenju Sabu, we have Yosenju Izna, we have Yosenju Hitot, or Hit-Thought, hahaha, and we have Yosenju Orochi Channeling, Yosenju Wind Worship, and we have Yosenju Sword Sting. I know above me you're seeing all of the other names that were previously translated, but what's so special about these guys? So Yosenju Sabu, this is another monster that you want to bring out. So if you go from comma 1, comma 2, comma 3, you can go back to comma 2 and put out a comma, well, Sabu. Sabu, what do? Well, like all Yosenjus, if they're normal summoned, they have to go back to the hand, but Yosenju normally starts a chain of normal summoning because one normal summon leads to another, but these guys do not actually do that. This one instead, if this guy is normal summoned, and while you control another Yosenju card, you can add a Yosenju Pendulum monster from the deck to your hand, which is pretty decent. And then you can also, on the other hand, I guess this is the ignition effect. You can target a Yosenju card you control, place one dizzying, I guess, the field spell or your Yosenju Whirlwind from your deck face up into your spell or trap zone face up. And if you do, you have to shuffle the target into the deck. Huh. Since it says, and if you do, it's a simultaneous non-requirement trigger, so you can actually use that other card as another material for something else if you can use it to pay for costs. That is a possibility. I like that. I can dig with that. What about Izna? Izna, on the other hand, is a much weaker Yosenju card, and once per turn during the end phase, if this card was normal summon, blah 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 blah, you get to, well, put it back in your hand. But what do? You can discard this card. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when Yosenju monsters are normal summoned. Oh wow, this is mean. This is almost like miscellaneous Saurus level mean, because you can just discard this card. One of the biggest weaknesses of Yosenju is that you negate them from starting off their chain, and this card protects you from that chain. If you have an extra copy of this card, you get to summon it out and draw one card, so definitely amassing a little bit of advantage, but I think the discard effect is what I find more appealing. What about this Yosenju Hit Thought or Twitch Thought? Okay, so with this Yosenju Thought or Hit Thought, it is what it is. It's a pendulum monster. It sets up your scales. Target one Yosenju card in your pendulum zone. Its pendulum scale become 11, which is decent, which means you can actually summon out some of your big Yosenju bosses, which is dieback. Or even this card itself cannot be special summoned except by pendulum summon. That means you can normal summon this one. Okay, yeah, you can. If this card is normal summoners that target one card your opponent controls, return it to the hand. Each time another card is returned to the hand by a card effect while this card's on the field, all Yosenju monsters you control currently gains 500 attack, and during the turn this card was special summoned, returned to the hand. So if you normal summon this card, it stays on the field. Okay, that's interesting. What do? Yosenju Orochi channeling. Sets up both your scales, but then they get blown up during the end phase of your opponent's turn, or during your opponent's end phase, yeah. But that being said, can we actually find some way to retrieve it? I don't know. Maybe we will. Or you can use this as a Rhoda. If you control no monster, you can add a level 5 or higher Yosenju monster from the deck to your hand. So that means all of your big level 6 Yosenjus or your scales. So that's pretty cool, I guess. Then there's Yosenju Wind Worship. If you control 3 or more Yosenju monsters with different names, return all Yosenju monsters you control to the hand and draw until you have 5 cards. So if you burn out on resources, you can replenish. But speaking of burning out on resources, what if you can't return that monster? Well, it just says that you return all Yosenju cards you control. So if you don't return any of your monsters, you won't get your draw if you have some stuff that you don't return. But on the other hand, what if you send some of them to the graveyard? So technically you return all Yosenju monsters you control, okay, and because you return all of them you control, you can actually draw additional cards some way or form. I'm pretty sure if someone finds a way to break this, they will. And then there is Sword Sting. This is a pretty good card because it's like a double compulse that's basically free. If you control a monster, reveal up to 2 Yosenju monsters with different names, then target that many face-up cards your opponent controls, return them to the hand. Since it's basically a free trap that bounces out, it's a really good control card to manipulate the field of any face-up card that you don't want to answer to. Yeah, decent stuff overall for Yosenjus. I like it. I dig. It's pretty cool cards. Maybe I'll try them out. Okay, 7 archetype down, and now we're into the loose support. I guess there's a couple of cards that can be grouped together. We have Ciphers, Dino Wrestlers, and Gradius monsters. Gradius being that side-scroller shooter that Konami had way back when in the old days. But regardless, okay, so Ciphers monsters, we're gonna run and gun through this, try to get as many context as possible without driving this video any longer. I'm already running down to my last 1,000 life points, and I'm dying too quickly here. So Rescue Interlacer during damage calculation of a Ciphers monster is attacked. You can discard discard this card, you take no damage from that battle, and you can use this effect of Lacer once per turn during the end phase. If this card's in the graveyard, discarded, you can special summon this card. So you get to prevent yourself from taking damage and get another body. A lot of these effects are during the damage calculation, preventing monsters from dying. Then we have another Ciphers card, Cross Debug. If you get to special summon this card if you control 2 or more Link monster. If the Link monster battles, you can banish this card from your graveyard and then target a Link monster in your graveyard. Then you basically get to gain. So this is an attack modifier. Link Mail Archfiend, I guess I'll talk about this one a bit more depth. 2+ monster to create this is a Link 4 big Ciphers boss monster. Now you can target a Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, Xyz. You control or in your graveyard, and all monsters your opponent currently controls loses attack equal to the target. This can be a game changer. It could completely wipe your opponent's board off the face of the earth because they have no attack, and you just swing right through. I think this card works really well with Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, because if your opponent has basically nothing, they are going to take 35 to the face constantly. That's something to think about for you guys, Dino Thunder players or just pure Dino players. And of course, if this card would be destroyed, you can just banish a Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, or Xyz. And also, a monster summoned from your extra deck cannot be they cannot be targeted by card effects. So that's pretty decent. Very decent Link monster. I think this is a solid monster to keep your eye out on. And then we have the Gradius stuff. I guess I skipped ahead to the Gradius Victory Viper T301. And attack is declared with your face-up monster versus your opponent's monster. You can special summon this card from your graveyard if it was already there, or from hand, but banish it when you leave. And all light machine monster gain 1200 attack, but it has to be all other light monsters. So likely this card is going to be the new target of attack unless you can fix it. This card, BS Blaster Core. This is the card that World Legacy players are looking for. It's a level 9 monster that you can just basically special summon. If your opponent controls more monster than you do, you can special summon this card. Then you can play World Legacy Monstrosity, getting out 2 more monsters to make your big fat VFD, the True King of all Calamities. So that's what I'm using that for. Then for Dino Wrestlers, we have Rambo or Rambrachio. Inflict damage, special summon this card from your hand. Yeah, just a free jumper, and this is a target magnet. And they have Marshal Kylo Ren, and Kylo Ren. Ugh. Anyways, this is a level 2 Dino Wrestler. Damage calculation. If your Dino Wrestler battles, you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard, and your battling monster cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, the attack of your opponent gets halved during the end phase. If this card is in your graveyard because of center of this turn, you can special summon this card out and banish it when it leaves the field. So in other words, again, more just battle-based modifier. I think battling is gonna be a big thing, maybe. I don't know. We'll move on to just the shotgun of monsters. We have Avita, which looks like a Clifford monster. If you look at it, it does look like a Klee monster. Okay, it has like pendulum scales and whatnot, but this is the dual Wolfcraft. This is like some sort of big boss monster. Level, I think 11? Yeah, it's a level 11. Must be some special summon from your hand while there are 8 or more Link monsters with different names in your field or graveyard. You cannot special summon other monster. Turn you special summon this card. This card special summon cannot be negated. You can't solemn this guy. If this card is special summon, shuffle all other monsters from the deck. Shuffle all other monsters into the deck from among the player's field, graveyard, and banish face up. Neither player can activate anything in response. So you just basically clear the board, and yeah, that's it. You have an empty board to play with. So that's something kind of interesting. 8 or more Link monsters with different names in the field or graveyard. Doesn't seem that hard to do with Thunder Guard Dragon, but anyways, there's Beat Raptor. This one was already released. This one, if I guess negate the effects of anything in the extra monster zone. Then we have Power Capsule. This is the material. If you detach it, you draw. You link with it, you draw. Basically, anything with it as a material, you will draw. And we have Cataclysmic Cryonic Holdo. So this is the next Cataclysmic monster. This is the wind one, where if your wind monster is destroyed by battle or card effect, special summon out this card. It is a fairy. And when you special summon out this card from your hand, you can place one of the spells and trap on the field to the top of the deck. So kind of reminds me of like when they slowly started to introduce Monarchs. This has a Monarch based effect for sure, which is very similar to Ryza. Then we have DMZ Dragons, like going to get your driver's license. One of the Dark Dragons, the only Dark Dragon introduced in this set. We have another secret rare, which is the Giznek Orochi, the Serpentron of Sky Slasher. This is a banished base card, works well with Grenmayu to Iza. If you can just use its cost to summon itself out. You can special summon this card from your hand or graveyard. You can banish 8 cards from the top of your deck face down, and then you can special summon this card. It's a cost, which means it loads up your graveyard. Sorry, rather, it loads up your banish pile for your Grenmayu to just punch for game. And you can banish 3 cards from your extra deck face down to target a monster on the field to destroy it. That is pretty solid. And it's a quick effect to summon itself out, so overall it's not too bad. 2450, that's kind of an annoying stat. Then we have what's this card? It's got a punny name here. Majestic Magician. Oh man, that was a weird name. Spell counter based card. You can think about whether or not you want to use it. During the end phase, you can remove 3 spell counters, then target one of your banished spells and add a card with the same name from your deck to your hand. So that's cool. Then we have Calabra. Calabra. That's a pendulum vanilla. Scale 5, declare scale 1 to 6, then target 2 face-up monster you control until the end of that turn. Reduce the level of one of those monsters by that, and increase the other by the other level. So you get to mess with levels with this. Just a level modifier, scale 5. Then we have Reptilian Lamia, which is a 0/0. Most Reptilian monster would like to push your opponent's monster to attack to 0, so you can engage in various other effects like stealing them. This one is the one monster that kind of zeroes out your opponent's monster. If all monster you control a reptile monster while this card is in your hand, you can target one face-up monster opponent control and then zero it out. And then if you do special summon out this card, then you take damage as usual to that monster's original attack. So if you zero out something really big, you could be at risk, but this is also a free summon tuner. If this card is sent to the graveyard as a synchro material, you can target up 2 monsters, change their attack to 0. So you're just zeroing out attacks everywhere. Then there's reversible beetle, flip insect monster, shuffle this card, and all face up card in this card's column into the deck. So it's a column based card. If this card's normal summoner sets, just basically change this card and all monsters in this card's column to face down defense. So it's a Book of Moon, almost like a Tsukuyomi to some degree. Next, we have our Spirit Sculptor. Tribute 1 monster. Add 1 monster from your deck to your hand whose sum of attack and defense is equal to the tributed monster. I don't know how you're gonna play with this. Maybe you can even use a what's that card called? Layer of Darkness to mess around. I don't know. Then we have our Pseudo Monarch. We have Takeo, the Malevolent Majesty. This is kind of like Majesty's mean. Tribute summon, destroy up to any number of face-up monster opponent controls whose combined attack is less than or equal to the original attack of the tributed monster. So whatever you tribute, the bigger your tribute, the more cards you will wipe off the board. Then there's Volt Tester. This is an interesting one. This is an effect that jumps from link to link. If this card special summoned to a link zone or link pointer, destroy as many link monsters linked to this card as possible, then destroy all monsters that were pointed to by the destroyed link monster, and you repeat this effect until there's no monster that can be destroyed. Basically, it's a circuit. It jumps and it goes and just blows up a line of link monsters. That's the point of this card. If you get extra linked and your opponent leaves a zone, you can just summon out this card onto those zones and just blow up your opponent's entire link chain. But then, of course, if nothing gets destroyed, that will be the end of it. And this is also a secret rare now. We have Witchcrafter Golem Aruru. Aruru is a generic spellcaster support, I think. It doesn't have to be specifically Witchcrafter. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a spellcaster monster or targets your spellcaster monster for attack while this card's in your hand, you can target 1 card your opponent controls and 1 Witchcrafter spell in your graveyard. I guess you still have to play Witchcrafter for this. And special summon out this card, and if you do, return the targeted card to the hand, and you can use this card of Witchcrafter Aruru once per turn. But I guess you can target 1 card your opponent control or 1 spellcaster So in other words, you can special summon this card, return the targeted card. So you're just guaranteed a free special summon regardless. If you're just playing Spellcaster, you can get a big beefy 28 beat stick and bounce a card. And you can use this effect once per turn. Once per turn during your standby phase, return this card to the hand. In other words, you get to reuse this card. I think it's a very strong utility card. And let's finally get to what do we have? We have Borreload X Charge Dragon. This is the cover card requiring 2 Dark Dragons. Pretty easy to make. A lot harder now to, I guess, some degree now that we don't have our white and black dragon that was like easy fodder. But if you just want to use rockets, that's still an option for you. Yeah, that's still a thing. Next we have the stain. No. You read the Kiki Nagashi Fucho. Unaffected by all the card effects. It just like stalls a turn because it cannot be destroyed by battle if you detach 2 material, and you cannot take battle damage from it. And this card is unaffected by all other card effects. So in other words, it's very difficult to get rid of. You have to kaiju it, or you can kill it the turn after. Even though it's 0, it will buy you a turn. Pretty decent card. It's just kind of weird. Kind of in a bit of a weird place, but it is a wing beast. Now we have number 29, Mannequin Can. Do we have all the numbers just yet? I don't know, but I hope we do. But yeah, I don't know what this card does. Once per turn, you can detach 1 Exceeds material from this card, then target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your opponent's field. If a monster special summoned to your opponent's field, except during the damage of while this card is on the field, target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls, special summon 1 monster from your hand or deck with the same type and attribute. In other words, you get to tether out a different monster by giving your opponent a monster. This is a rank 2 requiring 2 level 2 monsters. Next, we have White Aura Monoceros. This is a synchro monster requiring a water tuner. Strange little fish. Looks like a narwhal. When this card synchro summon, target 1 fish monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but it cannot attack this turn. You can, okay, well, I guess you get a free fish special summon, and it doesn't negate it, I think, so you can only use this card effect once per turn. If you control this card and is destroyed by your opponent's card, battle or card effects sent to the graveyard, you can banish 1 other water monster in your graveyard and special summon out this card. So, and it's treated as a tuner. It's neat. It's definitely not like one of those traps that we're about to see. That is the quick rundown version of all the monsters available. I guess I kind of skipped DMZ Dragon. Aside from going in to get your driver's license, once per turn you can target a level 4 or lower dragon in your graveyard, and 1 dragon you control. Equip that monster in the graveyard to the monster as a onto the field as a equip spell. Okay, the equip monster gains 500 attack, and at the end of the damage step, if the equip monster with the equip card attacked, you can banish this card from your graveyard and destroy as many equipped cards as possible to that monster you control. And if you do, you can make a 2nd attack in a row. Unfortunately, this requires dragons, otherwise I'd be thinking about using it with insectors. Okay, that covers all the monsters in this entire set except for the links. Links is last. I will get to it. Let's go over some spells and traps because I got a page full of that as well. And spells and trap support. These are just all loose supports and a couple of TCG exclusive. I actually like the TCG exclusive, but the ones I like I'll talk about a little bit more. But we have Hypernova Blast or Hypernova Burst. Banish 2 monsters that cannot be normal summoned except from your hand or on the field, and face down, draw 2 cards. Don't know how I'm going to take advantage of this, but it's draw 2, but it still costs 2 as well. And since it needs to get banished for cost, you can't use tokens either. So moving on, we have Link Back. Target 1 Link monster you control in the extra monster zone, and they get to move it somewhere else, and then send cards. Basically, you get a move and a bit of a Link Foolish. You mill cards equal to the number of Link rating you have, so that's kind of neat. Then we have the Demon Summoning. You can 6 monsters with the same original type but different names or different types, and then you can summon out basically any monster that is of the same type from the deck or extra deck. A very awkward card indeed. I don't know if this is even practical. Let me know what you would do with this card. Then we have Fury of Fire. This is considered as a Salamangre card. You get to summon out 2 Salamangre monsters with different names from your hand or graveyard and defense position, but their effects are negated. But the biggest drawback is you can only special summon from the extra deck once this this turn. So huge limitation. That means you can go into a link, but you won't be able to go into a relink. Star power. This is like a Guitar Hero reference. You get your star power. During damage calculation, if a link monster battles a monster, your opponent monster gains attack equal to the total levels or of the rank or whatever during damage calculation only. So yeah, you just convert it to your power. This is my power. It's like a spirit bomb. And then there's a psychic fervor. And during the battle phase, target one monster you control lose life points equal to its attack, and if you do, the attack is doubled. Okay, yeah, I guess you're trading off life points to double up in some damage. Of course, you can't attack directly during the turn you activate this card, so there is a limitation. Then we have Blackout Curtain. I like this card. This card is actually very smart in terms of the way that it is designed. If a card you control would be destroyed by battle or a card effect, you can destroy this card instead of one of those cards. And if a card your opponent control would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead of destroying one of those cards. You can actually just use it to get in the way and leave weak monsters open as a gateway to your opponent's life points, or you can protect basically any card. I like this card. It kind of makes Ogre a little bit useless. Yeah, I think this is a really nice card. As a continuous spell, has a lot of potential. Rising Fire, another Salamangreat card, but not limited to Salamangrates, of course. If you control no monsters, you can activate this effect by targeting a fire monster in your graveyard, special summon and equip this card. If it leaves the field, destroy that monster. If this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by opponent's card effect, you can banish one monster on the field. So in other words, repercussion if they try to take out this monster. You can revive your Ash Blossoms, use it as additional body. I'm pretty sure Salamangrates would love this card, giving them an additional free summon when they're empty. Definitely a good setup. And there's Grid Rod. Ciphers monster equip spell. It gains 300 attack and affected by opponent's card effects. Okay, holy crap, that's a really good protection. First time the equipped monster would be destroyed by battle each turn. It's not, wow, just purely just a protection rod. This is like the rod of protection. Yeah, and you can activate this effect. Ciphers monster you currently control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect. Wow. Okay, well then, if this card is sent to the field to the graveyard, you protect all your Ciphers guys. So this is the Wand of Truth. Next, we have Discharge for traps. Just jumping ahead of myself. Traps, we have Draw Discharge. I am tired as hell, guys. My brain is starting to shut down. Life points, critical. When your opponent draws cards because of the card effect, reveal the draw cards that they drew. And if there are any monster cards among them, inflict damage to your opponent to the total attack of those monsters. And if you do, banish all the revealed cards. This is a neat trick you can use against your opponent. Unfortunately, this is not a lingering effect. If it was a lingering effect, it'll shut down dangers entirely, but it's not. So I guess you can rip a card out of your opponent, maybe. Then there's Dwimmered, what's it called? Dwimmered Glimmer. Okay, you get to summon out this card as a monster. Okay, it's a spellcaster. Next, Draw Game. Or not Draw Game, sorry. Fighting Dirty. I don't know why they changed that name. I kind of like Draw Game. If cards on both field are destroyed by battle or card effect at the same time, draw two cards. Both players draw two cards. Yeah. Kind of neat, I suppose. And we have Fuma Wave. I actually like Fuma Wave. Fuma Wave is a very interesting trap card. Target one face-up monster on the field. Destroy one monster on the field with the same attribute with a different name. It really just hits pretty hard. Does not target. It can get rid of Darkest Diablos. I think it's a solid card entirely. And then there's Get Out. I think this card could be a high rarity card. I could be completely wrong, but target two monsters that are special summon from the extra deck and shuffle them back into the deck. Like, just automatically just shuffle back in. Kind of reminds me of Treacherous Trap Hole, but I think it's solid. I like the artwork too. It's kind of cute. Then there is Set Uppercut. When your monster is destroyed by battle, special summon out one monster from your hand or deck with less attack or equal to the destroyed monster in face-down defense position. You can use this card to play with some giant germs if you want. And then there's Return of the Dragon. Sorry, Storm Dragon's Return. There we go. Oh, man, I am just dying. I have to read this real text on this side versus the yugioh Pro text here. Okay, so you target one of your banished monsters and special summon to your side of the field, and then return it to the hand during the end phase. I love this card, and this card kind of signified the return of Tempest as well. If you think about it, that was a very big tell, because that also happened in OCG. Like, OCG got this card before we did, and they also got Tempest before we did. And then stamping of the normal, or return to the normal, when exactly one monster is normal summon or special summon, you destroy anything with less attack than that monster. Yeah, it's neat. It's like a weird trap hole. It's like a splash trap hole almost. Then there's White Howling. This is a very powerful trap card for anything that's running water. So if you're playing with the Marine Cess, you can consider also running this card. If you control water monster, target one spell in your opponent's graveyard, banish it, and if you do, negate all spell effects on your opponent's field this turn. That is devastating. Like, can you imagine just shutting out spells of Sky Striker? This card might be a blowout. World Legacy bestowal. Send one link monster your opponent controls to the graveyard. It's just a pretty decent effect already, like a decent trap for sure. But banish 7 World Legacy cards in your graveyard and add 1 Cyberse monster from your deck to your hand. Kind of iffy. If you ask me, it's kind of an iffy effect. But I think the send 1 link monster your opponent controls, non-targeting, is a solid effect. Sure, it's very basic, very situational. There's much better options, but hey, it's a World Legacy card. What do you want? It's the end of the story, guys. And that is all for the traps. We got 8 more cards, which are all the link monsters. Starting off with Palooza, the Goddess of the Bow. This is probably one of the money secrets, because it's a link 4 with a really decent effect. Once per chain, when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can make this card lose exactly 800 attack, and if you do, negate the activation. Really good against countering hand traps, and by countering hand traps I mean legitimately all hand traps, because it's once per chain. It's not once per turn, and because it's once per chain, that means you can eat all the hand traps you want, as long as they're not like chain like one on top of the other and try to bait you out. But overall, the recipe is pretty easy too. It requires 2+ or more monsters with different names except tokens. Now the original attack of this card becomes the number of material used. So at the very least it'll be 2, could be 3, could even be 4 negations coming from this card. Then we have Dragonite Knight Romulus. Of course, you need a dragon / wing beast monster. You just can't use tokens. And finally, that's arrived for us here in TCG. And I believe it synergizes well with the Dragonite style playstyle. And you can even add Dragon Ravine from your deck to your hand when you link summon this card. So overall, solid monster. There's of course more effects, but I'm just going to breeze through this. Then there's Defender of the Labyrinth, requiring 2 normal monsters. This was like an old vanilla card, I believe. And non-effect monsters gain 500 attack. Do you work this with 10 Yi? I don't think you do. I think it's just its own thing. Then we have the Wind Charmer. Of course, you get to take control of a wind-based monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon to a zone you control. Very much like the fire variant of Hita. And next we have TCG exclusive Barricade Blocker. I'm going to read the effect. If this card is link summoned, discard 1 card. During the end phase of this turn, add 1 continuous spell or trap from your graveyard to your hand. You can activate this effect once per turn, and face-up spells you control cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effect. That is a solid effect. Blocking out, protecting basically all your face-up spells. Maybe you'll keep your Mystic Mine alive, who knows. I'm just kidding. If you have Mystic Mine, you probably don't even want this on your field. Then we have the Haraslgur, I don't even know how to pronounce this, the Desperate, the Thirsty Doom Eagle. 2 wind monsters to make link 3, 2400 attack, gains 2400 attack if there's no monsters in your opponent's graveyard. Well, it's kind of weird. And there's a quick effect. Target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard and shuffle it into the deck. Okay, that's a pretty solid effect. It's a quick effect after all. You get to manipulate the graveyard. And TCG NA, that just means more annoying things for us to keep track in terms of rules. Okay, well that's fine. Next we have FA Shining Star GT. This is an FA Link monster. I believe OCG had this FA monster before we did, but now we're finally getting it. Okay, and you play with Athlete's Counter. And each time an FA spell or trap effect is activated, place 1 Athlete's Counter. When your opponent activates a monster effect, you can remove an Athlete's Counter to negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. So okay, that's pretty solid. Doesn't have any attack stats though. It gains attack based off of the total level of FA monster it points to, so there's that. And finally, the last monster, we have a Barber. At the start of the battle phase, you can target this card or one monster it points to, banish it until the end phase. Okay, you get a dodging effect. I don't know what's the point of this card. I guess it's kind of neat. Aside from that, it has a really creepy artwork too. Kind of reminds me of Sweeney Todd. Maybe that's just me. We're done, guys. We're done. We've covered every single card in the set of Rising Rampage. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this read. You guys should have listened to this as a podcast. If you guys are planning on buying the set or buying singles specifically, go check out the TCG player link down in the description below. I hope you guys learned a lot about the archetypes specifically, because that part is a bit more constructed in this run and gun shotgun reading of the remaining loose cannon support. I feel like Konami just grabbed a bunch of cards, shoved it in a tube, and then fired it. Yeah, I can't even speak. Just fired it at a wall and just splattered it everywhere. And this is what it feels like for this particular set. Hopefully, Chaos Impact is not like this. That is all I got for this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed it, hit me up with a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more stuff. There's deck profiles coming up now, and hopefully the most hype stuff is available coming soon for part 2. I guess the money cards, the things that you should be aware of. But anyways, this full read is just to mainly give you an oversight and overview of the entire set of Rising Rampage. And I'll see you guys in the next one, and I look forward to healing life points very soon. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please drop us a like so we know we are doing a good job, and you can also subscribe to MST.TV for more fantastic videos by clicking on the button on the left. Don't forget to check out our partners at Imperium Duelist. They make really high quality mats, including some of my own limited edition release stuff. And if you want to check out one of our past videos, click here on the right. As always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV, and I'll see you next time.